Having introduced the concept of actions, let's see how to implement and use them. Instead of just adding products directly to the cart, I want to reach out to a backend server first and verify that everything is okay, and update the session on the server. Only when this HTTP request completes will I add the product to the cart or update the quantity. But first, let's just implement a simple action that just commits a mutation, no questions asked. So let me go to the main.js file and add a new object named actions to the store, of course. And I'm going to add a new action using the square bracket syntax again, and I'm just going to use the same constant that we have for the mutation type. And actions take two arguments. First a context and a payload. And the context is the store itself, so on that we can call the commit method. So let's do exactly that. We can write context.commit, and first is the name of the mutation. That's going to be the same constant, because that's what we defined earlier. And then we can just pass the payload as the second argument to the commit method. Using the action is easy. We simply have to replace the invocation of the commit method with the dispatch method. The arguments are the same, so I'll do that within the product list component first. Let's open that up, and within the method that commits the mutation type, instead of committing the mutation, we will invoke a dispatch method. And everything is going to look the same as with the commit method. So this invokes the action that we just added, and the action then invokes the mutation. So let's do the same thing within the Vue product component. And all we have to do here is the same thing, so replace the commit method with the dispatch method. Let's just test that everything works the same as before. So I'll just add some products to the cart. That looks good. And let's try from this page as well. Also seems to work. Yeah. Great, so everything still works. Only now through an action instead of invoking mutations directly from within components. Let's make things a little more interesting though. I have prepared a simple endpoint on the node server in advance. All it does is to simulate adding a product to the cart by simply returning 200 OK and an empty JSON object. It does this after a timeout of 2 seconds, just to make it easier for us to see that the mutation is indeed invoked asynchronously after refactoring the action. What we'll do is to invoke the commit method in the promises success handler that the post method returns. I'll just begin typing it out so you can see what I mean. So I'll do that within the action. So instead of just always committing the mutation, I'll add an HTTP call. First I'll store the request URL in a variable, just to make things clean. So I'll just enter the endpoint here. So I'm using a URI segment here. It should be product ID. And another template. And let's issue a post request with the request URL, an empty object here, and an object of options where we'll specify the parameters. So the product ID is going to be the payload.product.id, and the quantity is going to be similar, like that. Since this is a promise, let's invoke the then method where we can specify a success handler, and that's where I'm going to commit the mutation. And let's just add an error callback just for good measure. Could not add product to cart. And that should be all. So let's try to test it out and add a product to the cart. So adding a product to the cart now, we can see that the state is no longer updated immediately, but after a delay of 2 seconds, being when the HTTP request finishes successfully. Let's try the same from the Vue product component. and we also see the delay on this page. So that's how to use actions for adding some asynchronous code and invoke a mutation when this code resolves.